What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Producing in a Pandemic, where we talk about tools and resources for artists and creatives. I'm your host, William Thompson, and in today's episode, I'm excited to bring part two of a conversation that I had with my friend and brother, Kell Bailey. Kell is a musician, songwriter, producer, artist based out of Virginia, and we just had a wonderful time chopping it up and talking about music, talking about producing, talking about what he uses in terms of tools and hardware, software with production, talking about his approach, how he got into songwriting, as well as overcoming certain challenges that presented itself during the pandemic. So I'm really excited to share part two of this interview. Guys, I want you all to also make sure that you're supporting Kell. He's got some music coming out this week. On May 6th, he's releasing his next single called I Am Safe, featuring Chris Bender. So go ahead and check that single out and support my friend, my brother Kell Bailey. In the meantime, y'all, tune in to part two of our conversation. So you became a producer. You said that you released your first project in 2018.
2019. I
2019.
working on it.
You started working on it 2018, 2019.
Yeah, the idea came around 2018,
Gotcha.
and then I finally released it in 2019.
Got you. All right, that's awesome though. So what was that process like? Like how did you kind of navigate that? That was your first project that you worked on, or had you like worked with other artists before that?
Yeah, I've done like some stuff with like some local artists. Done some production stuff. I released a single before I did my EP, but I took it down.
Okay.
Redid some things with it, but the EP is the first official collection of music that I actually released.
Okay. All right. So what was that process like? Just kind of, getting into some aspects of the production. Because you talked about like contracting musicians and stuff like
Mhm.
that. How much of it did you, or let's backtrack a little.
Okay.
Um, let's talk about kind of like your approach when it comes to producing the song. Like if you got a song idea in your head, or somebody came to you and said, "Hey Kell, I'd love for you to produce a song for me." How does that process go in terms of kind of like sketching out the idea and getting it from, just I got a song that I want you to produce to
Mhm.
finished product?
Got you. Glad you asked me. I've learned a lot from the different people that I've worked with
Mhm.
on what to do, what not to do. One of the things, we'll speak from the standpoint of if I'm working with the artist.
All right.
For me, if someone hires me to do a production, let's say it's one song, and they're like, "Hey, can you produce this song?" They'll send a voice memo and be like, "Here's the idea." One of the things I always tell them, like, I'd be like, "Hey, let's set up a call." I tell them I'm huge on communication. Like, if you're
Mhm.
trusting me to produce your song, or if you're hiring me for something, I'm going to communicate with you. It may be like the bare minimum, but as you probably know,
Yeah.
us musicians in general are terrible. They post and say, "Hey,
Mhm.
24-hour turnaround."
Yep.
And then next thing you know, it's 3 months later and you don't have what you need. So off the rip, I tell people, "Hey, I'm going to make sure that I communicate with you. And if it's something that I can't do, I'll let you know within the first couple of calls that, hey, I can either do this or I can't." It's no point of leading people on, but that's a whole nother rant for another day.
Yeah.
You can tell I've been through some things, right?
Look, we all got our burn stories.
Right. But typically, I, listen to the idea that they send me, the voice
Mhm.
memo, and I tell them, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking." I start sketching out the idea. I play it through fully. I may send them a reference back and be like, "Hey, this is what I got. Let me know if this is the right direction." Let's say that they say, "Yeah, this is cool." I complete the song fully, keys, organ, strings, bass, key drums, all that good
Mhm.
stuff. I give them like a full on production, and I'd be like, "Hey, this is what we have. typically my recommendations are to hire real musicians. I can only do but so much with what I do, but typically we'll hire a guitar player, a bass player, and a drummer. We'll get those files back, put everything together. Then from there, it's time to bring in the background vocals. The background vocals, they record. Me as a producer, I typically edit the vocals, do tuning, all that good stuff.
All right.
The final thing that we typically do when I'm working with people, I tell the artist to who's ever cutting leads, let them cut their leads last while everything else is done so that they can hear the track fully. Once those leads are done, it's time to decide who you want to get it mixed and mastered by. Get it mixed, get it mastered, then it's time for promo, and then it's time for release. So it's like a lot of different phases. I would say what I've learned and the little bit of stuff that I have done, even doing my own personal stuff, when doing music production, typically nothing goes as planned. Like if I work super, super fast and get everything done that I need to in a timely manner, you can guarantee that somebody somewhere is going to hold up the process because of their schedule or because of their things that they got going on in life. Like people, we all got different things going on, but somewhere down the line, we can create a timeline and create a projected release, but don't get stuck on that release. Is what I typically tell them, because things happen, but we just got to adjust and figure out how to make it work due to the inconveniences and stuff like that.
I hear you. That's all good stuff. I'm over here taking notes mentally. I'm definitely gonna be watching this back and taking a look at that. I know I've most independent artists, at least. Most independent artists have at least one burn story with a producer. I know I got a couple.
Jesus.
Oh man, look, lot of money lost.
Oh man, that's sad.
It was learning experiences though. And I know for me, it kind of helped me to kind of grow a little more confident in my ability as a producer. Like I'm not by no means the best producer in the world. Don't even claim to be. But I've learned, and I'm continuing to learn, how to take what's in my head and how to, put it out there. Because, while I am, a singer and artist, I was a musician first. So it's like, all right, I have that background. I have that to kind of fall back on. And so it's just a matter of what elements do I need to put in? Am I oversaturating it? Is it missing something? And kind of figuring out those different things. But there are plenty of artists that don't have that background or need to, have a producer, or even, sometimes like I reached out to you, like, I play piano, but I was like, I've played this song. The song I sent you, I've been playing for like 6 years. So it's like I just could only play it one way. It's just like, I just need some fresh ears on this. It's not that I can't do it. It's just I need some fresh ears, someone who's never heard the song before to be able to give a different approach. And the experience with you was great, which is why that's why it was so easy to continue to follow and support, and even invite you on here. But I think those are all some very important things to look for in terms of like if you are working with a producer, or if you're someone who is aspiring to be a producer, like communication is important to make sure that you are communicating with your artist.
It's like I often think of it like those of us that work 9 to 5s, like if you're doing a job and you have people to report to, you have to communicate. Like, I don't know, it's one of my pet peeves. It's something I plan on talking about in the future. Like I'm by no means the person who's like trashing or dogging musicians, like y'all musicians, y'all need to get it together. But also the other end of it is like some musicians, we do need to grow up in certain aspects and learn how to communicate. That's one of the biggest challenges that I think I've had putting together like EPs and albums, is communication. And that's not everyone. Like the people that I work with now, it's great. Like we have an understanding, it's good, but I think sometimes that can be challenging.
And it can take some trial and error to kind of find that right combination of people. Like I know there's some a guy named Justin Wright that I go to for organ every time.
Yeah.
Anytime I need organ for something, I call Justin.
Yeah.
Anytime I need almost anytime I need strings, or even if I just needed like just a good solid production, just a fresh take perspective,
Mhm.
Will Taylor
Yeah,
is someone I
he's a
call.
good dude. Like Will
Yep.
is one of my favorite young producers that's like around my age,
Oh my
around
gosh.
that
Yeah.
25, 26, 27 age. Like
Yeah.
Will's going to be, when it's all said and done,
I'm
it's
looking
all said
forward
and
to
done.
it. I'm looking forward to it, man. Because Will, I think part of the reason, one of the reasons, I'm just to give him some praise, just to,
Yeah.
like um, he is he's just got great character.
Yeah.
Um, on top of being like super skilled, like I sent him one song. He produced a song from my album that's gonna be coming up,
Mhm.
and oh my gosh, like the reference that he
Right.
sent me, the
Yeah.
reference, I was like, can I just record like to this? And it was, man, it was great. So like the talent is there, but then on top of it, man, he did everything. He was above board with business.
That's super
When it comes
important.
to
I'm
his,
glad to hear that too. Like I'm super glad to hear that.
yeah. I've never had a bad experience with him. So like he's one of one of my top recommendations.
Mhm.
When it comes to that. And there are not a lot of people necessarily that I have worked with.
Yeah.
Because like I said, because of my bad experiences, I was really hesitant. But
Mhm.
I remember the first time I saw him was actually playing in a church in Virginia.
Gotcha.
I was singing with a group and I saw him playing there. I was like, I just made a mental note. I don't know why he caught my eye. I was like, oh, he's playing good. And then
Yeah.
I just kept seeing more and more and more of him. And he's definitely, I could see him easily being like, the next like Aaron Lindsay.
Absolutely.
Like
And
just one
I
of
agree
these
with that.
top producers in this industry
Yep.
and in the genre. Yeah. So yeah, that's real important. That the skill and the character, they go
Yes.
together.
Definitely.
um the way my mom used to say it to me is that your skill, your talent will get you in the room, but your
Mhm.
character keeps you in the room.
That is 100% true.
So it's very, very important, for people that are, aspiring to be producers, or people that are producers now. Sometimes, you just need a reminder. It's not enough to just be great at what you do,
Yeah.
but it's about the way you do it. It's about how you do it. It's about how you handle the people that you're working with, whether it's the musicians you're contracting, whether
Mhm.
it's the artists that you're working with. It's important to, make sure that you're just handling people right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was really informative. Like I said, I'm definitely gonna be watching that back. Um, so with that, um, I guess since we're talking about like just some things in terms of like how you approach production. First, I'll say this: do you have any like tips, anything that either you learned, like any lessons you learned as a young producer, or any tips that you have for like young or new producers that are like trying to break into like that field?
Yeah. Wow. So many things I have learned. I guess like if you're first starting to get into production and songwriting and things such as that, comparison, like don't feel the need to compare yourself to people that's been 5 years ahead of you. Like take your
Mm-hmm.
time, walk your journey, and be patient and humble. Like being humble and putting in the work goes a long ways. And also less is more. Like you don't
Yeah.
have to always feel like you have to overdo something to prove something. Like if you feel like you have a good song and God's bless you with a good song, take your time with it, and less is more. You don't got to do nothing over the top in terms of production. And if you have a good song, you have a good song.
Mm-hmm.
Take your time with it. Be wise. Be smart. Um, yeah,
I hear you, especially with that last point. Less is more. I was just thinking as you were talking about that. Um, some of the most impactful songs, at least I can speaking for gospel,
Yeah.
some of the most impactful songs are some of the most simple songs.
Yeah.
Both melodically and in terms of harmonies, background vocals,
Mhm.
as well as just the instrumentation. The first song that came to mind was Alpha and Omega.
Listen.
Like, if you listen to that track by Israel, like other people have, covered it, and
Mhm.
it's been done to death in church.
Yeah.
But when you listen to that original recording from that recording in Africa, you just see like watching the video or just listening to it, you just kind of, there's this simplicity to it that just makes it so beautiful, which is, I think, part of why it's had the impact that it did.
Yeah. Another thing, as you're talking about that, another thing that comes to mind is another tip that I would give is be original.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own identity and footprint that we have to leave on music.
Yeah.
We don't need another Marvin Sapp or another
Mm-hmm.
Travis Green or Todd Delaney. Like, as much as we love those artists, there's already one. Like, God has placed something unique in all of us.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being inspired, but be original and be unique to yourself. Like, it's nothing worse than hearing a song and being like, oh, this person is trying to sound like that artist, or this sounds exactly like that artist. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, you can tell they're inspired by them, but be original.
Yeah. No, I agree with that as well. I was watching a who was it? It was Aaron Lindsay. I was watching an
Mhm.
interview that Aaron Lindsay did. And he was kind of touching on that same thing. And he was, one of the things that he talked about, I think people were comparing like William McDowell and BJ Putnam to
Okay.
Israel. And he's
Mhm.
like, well, those guys like traveled with us. And a lot of the musicians that played with them started out playing with us.
Yeah.
So, but they still had their own unique sound.
Yep.
Like William McDowell's sound is very clearly his sound.
Yep.
And you can hear, the inspiration, but even some of that is just the fact that, it's shared resources.
Yeah.
So, yeah, dude who played bass for Israel and New Breed also is playing bass on, Israel. I'm sorry, not Israel. William
William
McDowell's,
McDowell, Justin Rain.
last three albums. Yeah, Justin
Yeah.
Rains. So you kind of see how like how the sounds, and that even speaks to my earlier point, and just in terms of like how there are all these inspirations even between artists, simply
Mhm.
because of stuff like that. But it's still, he wasn't like, I want to sound like Israel, I want to be,
Yeah.
Israel
I'm
Junior.
gonna do
Like, it wasn't
exactly
it.
what he did. It's like, no,
Exactly.
you have your own footprint.
Yeah. And what they did, what the musicians did, they simply just took what they learned and they just applied it in a different context.
Exactly.
And they used the skills without necessarily stealing that sound.
Yep.
So yeah, that's really good. Especially um in today's day and age, there are like these, I hate the word cookie cutter, but there are these formulas that,
Yeah.
you have for like songwriting and
Mhm.
structure and stuff like that. And that's fine, but also, write what comes to you, like
Yeah.
produce what comes to you. It may be different is okay. Like,
That's good.
different is okay. And oftentimes when you look at the artists that are making the biggest difference, the producers that are making the biggest difference, um it's because they are doing something different. They're
I-
having the biggest impact. um but that'd be like, me, I'm gonna put 4 counts in my intro because Pharrell puts 4 counts
All
on
right.
every intro,
Right.
like that is his signature thing.
Mhm.
And each artist, each producer, each creative just has, like you said, their own thumbprint, their own fingerprint, their own individual identity. And there's something that they have that another person doesn't have. And we don't need another Michael Jackson. We don't need another William McDowell. We don't need another Beyonce. We don't need another Whitney Houston. We don't need another Dolly Parton. I'm trying to touch all the different genres. We don't need another I don't know, Sting, Kiss. We don't need another one of them. We need you. We need what has not come.
Yes.
So yeah,
I feel like that's so important to say within the gospel climate right now. Like,
yes,
I don't want to say the market's oversaturated, but also it is somewhat oversaturated with a lot of different music that sounds the same. Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, need originality.
Yeah, definitely. Ooh, this is good. We might have to split this into two parts. We're gonna see. We're gonna see how it comes at in the end.
Okay.
Y'all, this was an amazing conversation. And Kell and I, we just really had some good moments in this conversation, just in terms of connecting and growing and learning from each other, as well as just seeing, how much we really have in common in terms of goals, dreams, the desire to leave an effect on people, to leave a legacy of music and positivity on the world. So guys, if you found value in anything that Kell had to share, I need y'all to do me a favor. First and foremost, go ahead and support him. You can follow him on social media. We've given his username so that you can follow him. You can also subscribe to his YouTube channel, Kell Bailey. And he does various things on there, product reviews. He gives some information in regards to certain pieces of hardware, software that he uses, and going over those things. I know personally, I found value even before I had a chance to interview him. I had found value in that channel. So go ahead and subscribe to his channel, and then of course support his music. Go ahead and support his music and look for Kell Bailey on all digital platforms. Of course, his newest single, I Am Safe, featuring Chris Bender, drops tomorrow on May 6th, but he also has other music out. He has a couple of singles as well as an album. Freedom Is Here, Run to the Father. These are just some of the things that he has already released, and I want you all to go ahead and support him. If you enjoyed today's podcast, if you found value in today's podcast, please go ahead, like, comment, share, subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you all next time for another episode of Producing in a Pandemic. Thank you so much, and until next time, guys, keep creating. Bye.